Hello and welcome to the Hispanic Patriot podcast, a weekly podcast broadcast live from a secret, undisclosed location here in the heart of the great state of Colorado. Here we speak the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. My name is Nickolas Razo, and without further ado, I would present to you all our fearless Patron, Hugo Chavez Rey, but he is, again, like last week, in Peru, y la Patria de los Peruvianos, so give it up for the Hispanic Patriot, singular today as well. Welcome to the show, everybody. Before we get started, I am again asking for your like, comment, and subscription. Make sure you hit the notification bell to get all the videos, shorts, live videos, shorts, shows, updates, everything you could want. Follow us on all the platforms: YouTube, Rumble, X, Twitter, Facebook. All of this is only brought to you by you. Your support helps us reach bigger and better audiences, so we can bring them all straight to you, Hispanic Patriots. Thank you all for joining us. And yes, not the usual music that we usually have. It is going to be a bit of a somber show today because we are honoring many lives and many deaths today. In many ways, it's also a sad day for me personally, for reasons that we will get into and honor in just a little bit. But as usual, guys, we really appreciate your support. We appreciate you turning into this show and everything. We really, from the bottom of our hearts, you guys are the reason we do this. You know, the people that we fight for in our home state, which is under attack every day, constantly. And we will get into that. But first, we want to not talk about political news. We want to talk about the losses that we have suffered. And one of the biggest ones for us Catholics is the death of Pope Francis I, just a day after Easter. But on Easter, in some time zones, including in our own Colorado. So we want to start off today giving a short tribute to Pope Francis because, whatever anyone thinks about him or thought about him, that's sort of the great thing about death, is that the game is over once you get to that point. You know, all of the history we have to live in, all of the life that we have to carry, that we often had no part in creating, especially when you're part of a 2,000-year history like the Christian faith. This is something that when you shed it and go to home to the Father, us here on earth, that's why traditionally we have thought of that your game is over. Or as that beautiful line in The Green Mile said, he done pay what he owed. He's square with the house again. So we want to have a short video for you live from Vatican City, or was live from Vatican City, we could say. And we want to just give you a little idea of what's going on in there. This is the Cardinals singing the Our Father in Latin.
Exaudi nos Deus salutaris noster.
I think a lot of American Catholics are having a moment here when they hear the Latin being spoken in English language. Accent, very common.
The soul of
Very
your
beautiful.
servant and our Holy Father, Pope Francis.
So one thing I want you guys to sort of understand about us
trusted in the
Catholics
prayer of
is
the
that
Church.
one reason we speak in
ask
the
this in
Latin
Christ our Lord.
is because we wish to connect ourselves to the time of Christ, which was the Roman time, the Roman era. This continuation of tradition while still being within our own time period is very important because it's how we connect the past, present, and future. So that is something very important to us. And here we have the Hail Holy Queen. in Latin. Well, there we have it, live from Vatican City, or previously live, we should say again. And we want to pay tribute to Pope Francis here, the head of the Catholic Church, the spiritual leader of 1.5 billion people, the last time standards checked. And really one thing we want to express most strongly, guys, is that us Catholics are in mourning right now because we feel like we've lost a member of the family. The Holy Father is meant to be a symbol of fatherhood. That was what Jesus was to the fatherless and the orphans. And we're meant to have someone like that on earth. We're meant to have that. We're supposed to all be that if we can possibly be. And the symbol of the Pope is also something very significant in ancient to medieval and even just recent times, if you understand things from a monarchist sort of perspective, that the Catholic Church is still a monarchy, adhering to the kingship of Christ. And this idea of the kingship of Christ, I think, is very important for us in the Republican Party, because we have this interesting paradox where we are part of a monarchical tradition, Christianity, but we fiercely defend a democratic republic, most strongly. That's what we pledge allegiance to, etc. So how do we square this, us Christians, that we have these sort of various stems of a single tree? Well, what's beautiful about this is that the Romans certainly didn't seem to have much of a problem with it. They had their empire, their republic, a lot of the traditions meshed together, and it often corresponded to their particular place in time. So a place of disaster, after the fall of the Roman Empire, we saw medieval Christianity and medieval monarchic traditions, but they still had parliaments and constitutions. This was the beginning of our representative democracy, the democratic institutions, rather. So what's very interesting, guys, is that there are no contradictions in Western civilization or Christian history. We don't have contradictions. We just gain and gain and gain and gain. We don't lose anything. So us in our republic of the United States of America, we have no contradiction to be one thing or another, because our Lord Jesus Christ was and is fully God and fully man. So the idea of mixing a lot of things together and it being one solid thing, we know all about that in all of our communities, in our United States of America, in our Hispanic community, because it's the same thing with us. A hypostasis, the indigenous and the Spanish who first mixed together and brought everybody else along, that's a hypostatic union, fully indigenous, fully European. There is no one or the other. There is no dividing. You're not just a gringo or just a Native American. You are both of those things, or perhaps, you are mestizo, but your father is castizo. There's all these different combinations, and they all lead to different things, but they're all part of one family and one community. The Catholic Church is very similar. That's why most Hispanics are Catholic. That's why this time of mourning is very important for many Hispanics all across the United States and all across the world. The Holy Father was, of course, the first Latin American pope, what they say, but yet his family and his lineage was entirely from Italy. So it's interesting how these things mesh together, again, so seamlessly, whether you're fully from Europe, fully a native, fully, whatever this combination you have inside of you. There's nothing that can keep you or prevent you from experiencing your Hispanic culture, from enjoying your Hispanic roots. As we like to joke around here, if you like tacos, you're Hispanic enough for us, because to be quite honest, if your palate is amenable to it, you might have a piece of us somewhere. And, we probably have a piece of you somewhere, because that's the philosophy, world peoples. And so the Pope we had, Pope Francis, often known as the world Pope, as the people's Pope, I think he embodied very much the Hispanic American, admittingly left-wing nationalism. I'll go outright and say it, guys. It's very true that Pope Francis leaned more left-wing. But what does that mean for his context? Well, you have to understand that in Argentina, left-wing meant something very different, because there was a gentleman named Juan Perón. And was he right-wing? Was he left-wing? Very difficult to tell, because he was definitely more left-wing than his military dictator counterparts that had been ruling Argentina for some time. But at the same time, Juan Perón was very conservative and very nationalist. He was even kind of flirting about supporting the Nazis for a bit. So, not a lot of leftist socialists were doing that at the time. So in Argentina, left-wing, right-wing means something very, very different than we understand it. In Hispanic America, left-wingers actually support their country. They don't want foreign dictatorships to come in and ruin everything and make their kids gay and all these things. A crazy idea that in some countries being a nationalist doesn't mean you want to destroy your country, even if you're on the left. That's just crazy concept, isn't it? But in Hispanic America, that's what you got. So with Pope Francis's influences, it's very understandable why he took the tones that he did. It's very understandable why he went to the places he did. It's very understandable why he conducted the diplomacy that he did. Because I think it relates to who his successor could be. And guys, that is going to be such an important question. That's really the big question for all non-Catholics right now. Who is going to be the next pope? For anyone who doesn't know the process, I will very quickly explain it. I could technically become the pope. Pope Nickolas. I think we've had a Pope Nickolas, actually. But joking aside, guys, any Catholic male could actually become the pope. That is true. However, usually that's not how it works. For the same reason that just because we can elect anyone president of the United States doesn't mean we're going to. So in practice, you got to be somebody already established. And what does that mean in the Catholic Church? It means being a cardinal priest. Sometimes cardinal bishop, cardinal archbishop, cardinal patriarch. There's a lot of various kinds of things you could be. But cardinal got to be at the top of the list, because you are the guy that is in the room, or one of the 100 or so guys, 200, etc., that are in the room that decide who's the pope. So what's interesting, guys, is that, as I was talking about before, let's tie it all back. The United States of America might have been built on monarchical traditions, many, many different kinds of monarchical traditions, but stands as a proud republic today and has no interest in establishing a monarchy. And yet, the monarchy, which is the Catholic Church, the head of state is elected democratically and is non-hereditary. That is the only kind of institution, government, country, etc., that is like that in the whole world. So, quite interesting. Quite interesting. But as we know, guys, the papal conclave, that's the name of their election, the election of the Pope, it is coming. And when can we expect it? Well, what we have to understand is that there is a 8-day period of mourning. 8 days of mourning between the 21st. Well, actually, my apologies. What it is it's a time for the bishops to gather up. That's actually what the time is for. But there is a time of mourning, and during this time, you probably should not really expect any news out of the Vatican, quite frankly, beyond tributes to the Holy Father, tributes to his life and all these things. So if you want a history lesson on the current Pope, definitely, be consuming all the news you can. But I want to talk just a minute about his life. Just a minute, because before I get to who's going to replace him. Because I really think that his life has been misunderstood. Guys, you know me. You guys know me. I am right-wing. I am a nationalist. I am a nationalist for America. I am a Catholic. I believe in my church. And I wouldn't expect anybody else to believe otherwise the same. Because, that's why I respect even Protestants who don't like Catholicism, but respect Catholics. Because we can have a debate and a conversation. And they believe in Jesus Christ so much, they believe that their church is the right one. And I respect that, because to be a man means to believe 100% in your family. But being a good man means that just because you love your family more than every other family doesn't mean you hate other families. Doesn't mean you think that other families aren't valuable. So I love that about the Christian Brotherhood, especially that we have here in Colorado Springs and Colorado itself. Very, very, very beautiful. And I think Pope Francis believed in that beauty. A lot of people said, he believed in other Christian religions. Well, how dare he? Other Christian religions believe in us. Belief is not the same thing as affirmation of absolute truth. And if you think about his policies, guys, for a quote-unquote left-winger, he believed that abortion is totally wrong, that IVF is not sanctionable because it's not a natural childbirth in the same way that Catholics understand it. He believed that gay marriage is impossible, can't happen. He believed that the Catholic Church should be one church and that there should be a respect for its head, which should have power within its church. He believed that Jesus Christ is Lord, absolute, throughout all the world, forever. Guys, I don't really know if AOC or, the squad or even Joe Biden would agree with even half of that. Pope Francis, if he was American, would have Republican values. But being Hispanic, he'd probably vote Democrat, because politics isn't always about your values. Sometimes it's about who controls you. And we in the Hispanic community don't want Democrat control of our community anymore. But if you're living in some place like Argentina that only knew democracy for 30 years, you might understandably see things a little slower. Think that the world needs to get better through a slow cook of love and humility. Maybe you think that the pride that we Catholics have needs to be broken down a little bit so that we can bring others towards us. I don't think Pope Francis's strategy or ideology was ever, let's submit to our enemies, the enemies of Christ. I think his idea was, let us love our enemies and hug them, because hugging your enemy is a real military tactic, especially when you've got little left. And, I'm a big fan of the show The Young Pope, and we'll be mentioning that later just a little bit too. But legitimately, I think that the Pope Francis, did actually win immeasurable amounts of esteem and lots of friendship for the Catholic Church. Friendship of the whole world. What do we do with the friendship of the whole world? I don't know what to do with it, said Jude Law in The Young Pope. Well, I think I know what to do with it, and I think the cardinals know what to do with it. Keep the world's eyes on the church. Have the world watch what the church does, not the other way around. Because, guys, the church was so persecuted in the last 100, 200 years. Starting with the French Revolution, we had priests killed, guillotined, and murdered, and terrible things done to our priests. Martyred like Christ. Under revolution. Liberal, secular, satanic, communist. The church under communism was almost destroyed if it hadn't been already under the Nazis previously. So the Catholic Church has been immeasurably damaged before we got it today. And I think a lot of Catholics don't realize that or appreciate that. I think a lot of times we don't appreciate the damage that people went through when we find them. And when you got 2,000 years of history, 2,000 years of fighting off barbarous Muslims, and 2,000 years of fighting off slavers and fighting off barbarians and fighting off God knows what, really. Maybe you're going to have some baggage. And so the church has baggage, absolutely. But it's history that defines our culture and makes us who we are and allows us to face greater challenges. So for anyone who doubts others based on their baggage, I would say take another look. Take another look. Definitely. Because I think Pope Francis had a lot of baggage in his life. You know? I think a lot of people his age did. I think a lot of his generation could relate to his mistakes. Not understanding the youth. Being a little bit arrogant. Maybe not always appreciating that people are going through things that you can't help them with, no matter how much you try. That refugees don't always need welcome signs. Sometimes they need peace in their home countries. And I think Pope Francis only really understood that through one other man, Pope Benedict. I think we really had two popes for a while. These men were best friends. Do not be fooled by the propaganda. Do not be fooled by the lies. These men were not at odds. Benedict was not forced out so that Francis could be brought in. These men were friends. Conservative, liberal, a little bit on each side. But I think a lot of people saw the loss of life inside of Pope Francis when his friend Benedict died. I think he became a very different man. And I think he became much more conservative because he knew that he had to carry on what his friend believed in. You know, when your friends die, you will understand that. That is the feeling. So I think Pope Francis, you know, people talk about the Pachamama, that he misunderstood, that perhaps to honor Native Americans the best, honor Christ. We like that. We prefer that. You know, we like our, the things that helped us understand what Christianity was and everything, you know, helping us understand that, Mother Earth is not a sentient being, but Mother Mary created in her womb, helped, all these things, our salvation, etc. I think that in the action of that brave Austrian young man who threw that idol into the river, what he saw as an idol, he woke Pope Francis up. Us young people have to realize that we can wake up older people by acting brashly, by expressing ourselves. And Pope Francis said that once as well. There was a little mute boy that came on stage and he said he's mute, but he knows how to express himself. People who can't talk, sometimes they're the ones who speak the loudest. And someone who could recognize that, I think that's a good soul. I think that's a good soul. And I'm not going to get into all the conspiracy theories about the church or whatever. I'm not going to get into, the Pope working with the Queen of England to work with the Illuminati or whatever, Guys, if the Catholic Church actually was part of the New World Order, I think that they would hate all of our beliefs less. The transhuman stuff and let's, liquidate babies in order to live forever and let's make people eat bugs. The Catholic Church invented social justice, but we didn't make whatever that was, whatever Klaus Schwab or whatever those guys, whatever them folks, made up. I don't really think they had much love for Christ when they thought of it. Maybe quite the opposite. Just looking at just some things. But again, all the accusations aside, we are going to end this bit about Pope Francis on a happier note. We're going to play a little bit of his best moments, a little bit of, I want to say levity. We definitely need that. And it definitely starts with some levity, if you'll see what I mean in just a moment.
Questo messaggio, La vita cristiana deve essere una vita è fiorito dai tre. La vita cristiana
una doccia nelle nostre case.
Yes, these children here are
si trasformano in piccole fraterne.
Loved by God, let's just
quando gli
say.
aiuti di Stato sono insufficienti.
Unique
I
created.
nostri armati poi
The
si
target of
trovano
abortionists.
rivestiti,
Oh, isn't that beautiful?
ma nello stesso tempo
Gehorsams gegenüber Gott.
Here's that moment I was just speaking about.
Este chico no puede hablar, es mudo, pero sabe comunicar, sabe expresarse. Y tiene una cosa que me hizo pensar, es libre, indisciplinadamente libre.
Siccome l'abito fa il monaco, giusto? Di fare una tuta di volo come le nostre.
Ah, va bene.
As the Pope goes to space.
E lei mi pianifica il viaggio.
Abbiamo fatto sempre le insigne del
Look how
Vaticano.
full of life he was. Again, after Benedict died, guys, man, I really think things got different.
Papa Francisco,
Oh,
¿cómo estás
the Mexicans in the audience will love this. For anyone having a freak out about this is Brazilian Carnival. This stuff happens all the time in Brazil around Carnival because it's before Easter. So. Not a lot of Puritanism in Hispanic America, weirdly. Oh, that's a beautiful hat. Beautiful hat. For anyone who hasn't been to Rome or any other major European capital, there's people like this all over the place. It's not just in, like, outside Chinese Theater in California. Ah, here we are, our president.
What do you give him to eat? Is it
Oh, I hope if she's not giving him portizza, man, it's like that's what did you marry a Slovenian woman for? No, portizza is a really delicious, like walnut, like it's a filling type of bread. I believe it's walnut, but it's like walnut and honey. Oh, it's delicious. But anyways, guys, that was Pope Francis, before he got sick and passed away. But, we honor him today because he is the leader of so many people, including so many of our Catholic Hispanic community. And he is a huge inspiration for Hispanics everywhere, not just for people who agreed with him, but many who disagreed with him, who he offered love and concern to. But guys, we have a huge question. Who's going to be the next pope? That's going to be the huge question, and we are moving on to that question because I think that I might have some insights for you that you will not find anywhere else. As usual here on Hispanic Patriot, that is what we promise. Insight, on-the-ground information that you cannot find anywhere else on the internet or otherwise. So, who do we think is up for the office, guys? Well, here we are.
Are the leading contenders right now, according to experts and even betting line odds, although these are guesstimates at best. Luis Antonio Tagle, a 67-year-old archbishop from the Philippines, known as the Asian Francis because he lines up on the late Pope's social justice views. Pietro Parolin from Italy, 70 years old, considered more moderate and the Vatican Secretary of State right now. Peter Turkson from Ghana, age 76, would be the first African pope since 496
I really don't know
AD.
why they didn't put
Peter Erdo, Hungary,
Cardinal
72
Sarah,
years
but
old,
she is
leading
80.
conservative
He is
candidate, would be a shift back to the Pope John Paul positioning. And Angelo Scola, Italy, an 82-year-old cardinal and perennial possibility, but he may have aged out. There, of course,
Yes,
are
he is
others in the
absolutely
running,
aged out.
and these are...
For what it's worth, guys, I would not always trust mainstream American news for Catholic information. Definitely would recommend always EWTN. That is the premier Catholic news network in America, created by an American nun for American Catholics. I would absolutely recommend them because some of these people definitely are not even in contention. So we're going to take the three here that are. That's going to be Tagle, Pietro Parolin, and Show de Pilin. That's immediately what I want to think about whenever I see his name. And then Peter Ordo. So again, hopefully I am pronouncing at least some of that correctly. But it will go very quickly because, guys, I think I have a lock on who it's going to be. in just a moment. So let me just go through very quickly the candidates. Luis Tagle, known as the Asian Francis. Definitely he aligns on the left, if you want to think about it. It's definitely going to kind of be a soft pope if elected. Not necessarily what I think the Cardinals want to see right now in a world headed towards war. I do not think that Tagle will be the pope for many, many reasons. Many Filipino jokes could be made here that I think Filipinos would get an immeasurable kick out of, but I will restrain myself. Filipino Catholicism is very much like American Catholicism. And so I would bet on an American pope before a Filipino pope for numerous reasons. There's also a huge amount of, I don't want to say heresy or like, there's syncretism is what it's called in the Philippines, not just between Catholicism and native religions or Islam or other things, but between Catholicism and Protestantism. So I just don't think the Curia would elect a Filipino bishop for the same reason I don't think we're going to see an American one for a long time, is this fear of Protestantization. That is why I don't think Tagle will be the pope. I could be wrong, though. So Peter Erdo I think is how you pronounce that, the Hungarian, very, very good guy, very conservative. He is definitely, like they said, closer to John Paul II, at least John Paul II's later life. People forget that John Paul II was actually pretty liberal and became extremely conservative, and that's the same with Benedict. Benedict became extremely conservative. You know, the time that they got the Vatican II times, that it was different times, guys. Really different times. You know, you can't blame the boomers for everything. But anyways, jokes aside, I think that Peter Erdo could be. My thing of why I don't think it's going to be is because this form of left-wing, right-wing thinking in relation to the elections, that's not really how the Vatican electoral system works in that sense. It's not how Vatican democracy, if you want to put it. The Respublica Cristiana is actually what it's called, the Republic of Christianity. And that's a huge another topic that we will probably do separate things about, because it's another connection America has to the Catholic Church, Christianity, the apostolic succession, and everything else. So Peter, it's interesting how either way we're going to get a Peter, and we will talk about that in a minute. But typically, the Curia doesn't elect popes based on let's be right, let's be left, let's swing to the. That's not usually how it works. Usually, it's historic imperative, historic reason as to why people choose the next pope the way they do. So, who is my pick, guys? The African bishops. Again, conservatives, same issue as Mr. Erdo. So what does that leave? I'm building up. I believe, and I am predicting, that the next pope will be Pietro Parolin, the Cardinal Secretary of State. Why do I believe that? I'll go through it very quickly. The Cardinal Secretary of State was elected pope twice, very famously, Benedict XV and Pius XII. Both of those popes became popes during World War I and World War II, respectively. And it would be kind of awesome if, for that historic reason, Pietro Parolin called himself Pius XIII. He would have every historic reason to. It would be awesome because people would be like, oh man, it's like the show. It would put the Catholic Church, I don't want to say on the map, but it would definitely rouse significant interest for months and months, if not years on end. It would be a major media genius move, in my opinion. It would be exactly like the reasons for the young pope, but with none of the, this is gimmicky, obviously. We could actually have a Pius XIII without gimmicks, with historical imperative, because Pius XI, I'm talking about the guy before Pius XII, has connections to Pietro Parolin. Pietro Parolin is extremely accomplished as a Vatican diplomat. He brought Mexico back in with relations with the Vatican. Effectively brought the Mexican government back into the Catholic Church in that sense, where Pius XI failed during the Cristero uprising. Viva Cristo Rey. During that time, where Mexicans fought for our churches because we had an evil government that wanted to ban our churches and our alcohol, ban tequila in the Catholic Church. What was he thinking? We rose up and fought back. And I want to mention, shout out to the young Republicans who are fighting for the school boards, because the school teachers were foot soldiers in the war against Catholicism in Mexico for the government, for Mr. Calles. We know a thing or two about oppression through education in Mexico, and that's why we fight for these school boards to be conservative, to not have transgender ideology, to not attack the kids, to not go after our families. And this man helped bring this country of ours, Mexico, back into the church's fold, diplomatically, in 1992. He, being Pope Pius XIII, would be a historic continuation from the 11th and 12th into a world which is obviously headed into war. And the man's only 70. He will see that war if elected. He'll be preparing for it. As the Cardinal Secretary of State, he has been to Ukraine, Russia, Turkey, the Middle East, to Hispanic America, many places in Hispanic America. He has dealt with China. He has played the long game with China and understands that this evil will attack. And the Catholic Church needs to be in a position where it can affect life in China. I love Cardinals and God bless the Chinese Catholics. But we need you to be ready, is what he has said. Mr. Pierolin has said, Cardinal Pierolin. So, guys, I think that political considerations are not important for the Vatican. They're just not. They're not. Historic imperatives are important for the Vatican. An institution which has lived 2,000 years understands historic imperatives. I believe for that reason that Pietro Parolin will be elected the next Pope. You've heard it here on Hispanic Patriot. And guys, why don't you tell us who you think will be the Pope? Next Pope, potentially in the comments. Let us know. We always love seeing them. But guys, that is it for right now on the Catholic Church and the Pope. We have to pray that the right decision is made no matter what. And thank God that we are not voting members of that and having to organize all the elector stuff that we're used to here in Colorado and across the nation for 1.5 billion people. We have enough trouble doing it for 50,000. So, guys, again, pray for your Catholic friends. Pray for the Catholic Church. Pray for all Christianity, that we might be one day under one roof again, as we were at the Last Supper. We have a lot more than 12 now, so you better find a bigger house. All right, guys. Well, we have another life to honor here on Hispanic Patriot Podcast, and it has been graciously allowed that I may do so. Today is not only, a time where we honor the death of Pope Francis, that we think about many, many deaths. There's been so many deaths, from Julius Caesar in March to many important ones in May and April. This is a time of death and birthdays, and also birthdays of my grandfather as well. One of these is in this week, but today was the day that my father passed away. It was the day I lost my father 13 years ago, 2012. Guys, when you lose your parents, it never really ends in that sense. It never really goes away, because you are a link in a big chain going back hundreds of thousands of years. And so your heart will not allow you to not feel something when you lose someone who made you, someone who's so close to you. So, guys, I want to encourage all of you to talk to your parents today, hug your parents, regardless of the relationship you have with them. Try to restore it if you can, if it is damaged. Make sure that lifeline and that chain of history is there. At least it'll help you understand things about yourself immeasurably that you'll never be able to get anywhere else. And so I really want to encourage that. And so, guys, I want to share with you a little bit of my father. This is a video honoring my father. And I would be very, very obliged to share it with you guys, because I think it says a lot about the values of our community as well. And I think that many of you will be able to relate to it.
I knew Eddie at a very young age. Eddie was to me a person that I wanted to follow. He was riding when I first started riding. He'd already been riding, and you know, he was...
This is Arlington Park Racetrack here. As our racetrack, it has been torn down
so I wanted
since
to
then.
be like Eddie. You know, he was probably one of the first guys that I met from up here, and from the get-go, he was always willing to help. Nice, you know, teach you everything that he knows, always there, you know, always there for you for whatever you needed, and was a great mentor for a young rider growing up, learning how to ride and the way to do things right and how to treat people with respect.
Eddie's been like an icon in Chicago. If you ever had a problem, you go ask Eddie Razo, you know what I mean? Like when I rode races, Eddie was always a person that I looked up to. You know, he's one of those riders that was just the versatile rider that could do anything in a race.
I really admired him because of his professional attitude, and he was an exceptional rider.
When Eddie rode for me, he was one of the best riders I've ever had on a horse. He won his 2000 race on my horse, on one of my horses, and it's a day I'll never forget.
Just was amazing the way he can ride, you know. He was just, no one could horseback like him. I mean, he was unbelievable.
Heck of a rider, one of the best. One of the best riders I've ever seen ride. He would get down like a lizard on a log and could outride anybody around. One of the best I've seen.
He went on Springfield Day, or the Springfield Stakes for me with Wiggins. That was one of the happiest times that I can remember, when he was the overcomer and we win the race and beat the odds.
Final 16th for the champ Wiggins. It is Wiggins and jockey Eusebio.
If anyone's picking up that there's a lot of skills in this line of work that translate to politics, you're not wrong. Hey, there I am over there.
My best friend. I know him from the start, when the first day I started ride. Eddie was a mentor in the jocks room and didn't even know it. That's the kind of guy he was.
I always told all of my riders, if you need any help in there, go see Razo.
That's the kind of person you want to be. The person where people say, hey, go see that guy.
Support me and
this gentleman won the Kentucky Derby at one point.
And stuff.
Eddie Razo was a great example to the other riders, particularly the apprentices that came into the business. He took time to explain things to them, and he was very much of a gentleman.
I would say he was our leader in the jocks room, and he was a role model to all the young riders. And he was our mediator.
He cared about everybody. He was a really good guy to get along, and teaching the young riders, you know, give a good advice how to ride and teach it, you know, this was the best. Eddie was the first one there.
That's what you want other men to say about you, young men out there.
It was just a race, and just shake it off and move on to the next race. And you know, he was that kind of...
A lot of politicians in this state could learn that lesson.
Out of town, they knew who he was. And people told him, you know, that's the guy to go see. And you know, everyone respected him, and whatever he said, people listened.
We had great respect for him as a rider and his talents and what he brought professionally out onto the track. But what he brought in behind the scenes was a lot of integrity, honesty, and a quiet but very loud voice. When Eddie spoke, people listened.
Yeah, Eddie wasn't scared to speak his opinion or pass a comment or, you know, interject when he thought something might be wrong. He was pretty stand-up when it came to that.
Eddie was an excellent person. I mean, he will get anything for you.
Eddie Razo was one of the best person I ever met. Very nice guy and always like understanding, you know, to everything.
Eddie and I become friends, class act, true gentleman, you know. He's one of these guys that just sticks out. The industry's full of characters, some good, some bad. Eddie is one of them characters that was just true.
That will stick with me all life right there.
Anything you ever
always
did
be true and genuine.
100% true, and anything he told you was always the truth, and he never ever let you down.
Eddie was the type of guy that would treat you like he was your best friend from the very first time he met you. He'd always had a smile on his face.
Class act all the way through. A gentleman. No one ever had a bad thing to say about Eddie Razo.
It was a real pleasure knowing and working with Eddie Razo. He was one of the truly gentlemen of the sport, always with a smile on his face. Never ever in the many years that we worked together did I see Eddie in a cross way.
I've seen Eddie grow up all along his career, and he's been my go-to rider. He's always been respected by all the horsemen and all the riders.
Eddie was an excellent rider. He's a real pleasure to ride with. He knew where he was at, he knew what he could do on that racetrack, and he knew what he couldn't do on that racetrack. He wasn't the type of rider that ever put another rider into jeopardy, and he was always aware and always had a great respect for the business and the game and horse racing.
He always made sure he took care of other riders, never got in very much trouble out there on the racetrack, and kept everybody safe around him.
He was very well respected for that, and he'll be very much so missed. We miss him now. We need a leader in the jockeyroom like you, Eddie.
He's the glue that held the jockeyroom together when anything bad happened. Because, you know, he was one of a kind.
Eddie, you were always a class act. You always took the time to shake my hands if you saw me in the paddock. You always had a smile on your face. There were lots of winners for us, and you're just always a great, classy guy.
He's going to be really missed because he had a very good sense of humor. It was dry, but it was funny.
I definitely inherited that.
Anytime you're around him, he was made you laugh.
He would always put a smile on your face. Always had a joke to tell. Like I said, he always had a smile on his face, and he'd always put a smile on yours.
You know, Eddie was a good joker, you know. Well, we're both older now. Eddie was 46, and, you know, we're right around the same age. And, I mean, when we were back in our 20s, you know, there's a lot of practical jokes that we had played, you know, a lot of good times.
Eddie rode a lot of great races for Dare to Dream Stable. We're going to miss you. Win or lose, you were always a class act, and you'll be sorely missed around here.
The last horse he rode in Chicago was a horse called Scorpio Be Dancing that he won with, and he was very pleased about that. Matter of fact, Eddie had a good eye for a horse, told me the horse would win first time she ran, and he got it done by a nose.
He was competing against my brother in sportsmen. It was a good battle. Eddie won the title that year. A quote he used to say all the time, ride hard for second.
My favorite quote.
I say 95% every time he said that, he won the race.
Our heart goes out to Eddie's family. I feel very privileged that he rode horses for us. He put 110% into everything he did, and it was a real privilege to have had the opportunity to know him.
I wish I can still have it here with us.
It is unfortunate, you know, a big loss for racing, and he will be missed.
He was just a real stand-up guy. Gonna miss you, Eddie. Gonna really miss you.
He was an excellent person, excellent friend, with the best human quality, and I miss him. He's the best, he was the best.
Eddie was always in the room, was always laughing, always joking, always kept the room, you know, upbeat and made it enjoyable. He was always an enjoyable person to be around, and, you know, that's the way I try to be. I try to maybe, you know, keep some of that going and try to keep, you know, keep people's...
That's the message for all of you watching too, especially you young men. You have to keep those things going.
You know, remembering all the wonderful ways that he was, and the great person that he was, and be helpful and supportive to everybody. And I think that's probably what he would want most out of any of it. And we're gonna miss him dearly, and I hate to see a great friend like that go.
We've all seen too many good friends go, especially in these generations.
Muy buenas cosas de él, como una gran persona, como fue un gran jockey. Y bueno, que Dios lo tenga la gloria y lo vamos a extrañar.
He was very nice to work for. He's a true gentleman. He was a big asset to the horse racing world, and he's going to be dearly missed.
Toda la gente de todos los hipódromos lo estimaban.
My grandfather here.
Estaba con una sonrisa en la boca y muy contento siempre.
And, you know, it's just sad to see somebody, you know, that was part of that group, you know, that isn't going to be there anymore. And he's definitely going to be missed.
He was always a stand-up type individual and a big contributor to the sport of horse racing. He's surely going to be missed.
You know, we'll miss you, Eddie.
He probably taught more young riders than all of us in the jockeyroom combined, because that's the kind of guy he was. And he helped everybody out, and everybody loved Razo. He had no enemies, and we all miss him.
Well, I thank all of you for watching that. And the main reason I share that with you guys is not necessarily to glorify my father, but to show you guys that these are the things that you want to strive for when you pass on eventually. Well, it's all going to happen to us. You know, you can't get out of ringing that bell. But that's what you want to have people not only say, but truly believe about you, because that's how you lived your life. Those are the things that you want to aspire to be a true character, to shake everybody's hand, no matter who they are, no matter what scale. There is no scale. We all work together. This idea that we as not just men, but as believers, not just believers, but as part of a greater whole, that we act with integrity. And that no matter how much we fall short of these standards, that we keep them up, because the lack of standards is what's destroying this world and this country. The fact that everybody feels like they can just ignore these values that we're all supposed to try to strive for, just because we know we all can't reach them. That's not right. That's not right. We can't give up just because we know it's hard. I mean, doesn't that just sound stupid when I just said it? Give up because we know it's hard. That's not how we live. That's not how we were raised. I was raised to be like that, to be on those standards. And I want to make a big preference to this. That my mother was equal, if not even more important, to that process. And those who understand Mary, Mother of God, understands what I'm saying here. Anyone who's had a perfect mother like I have, you know what Mother Mary's importance to Jesus was. To have somebody that's your friend see you die is one thing. Could you imagine your mother who loves you more than anything, your mother who you are her sunshine, her ray of sunshine, and now her job is to watch you be crucified, knowing that that was what you were born to do? Jesus' mother watched him go through his mission like that. That's a real mother. That's an amazing mother. And so all of you with real mothers, you know what I'm talking about. And the importance of Mother Mary in the life of Jesus and the life of the Catholic Church. So, guys, we have one more life to honor here today, and it is coming up on the ticker. And you guys could all see that name. That is Irvin Selby. Irvin Selby. That is my wife's grandfather. I don't have much material here on through Facebook or anything like that I can share with you, unfortunately. So we will link something in the description. This gentleman was a real man right here, guys. A paratrooper of the 82nd, if I'm not mistaken, and a survivor of many, many stories. My favorite is when, and those of you who have done jump training know, you're not supposed to jump out of the plane on both ends at the same time. Well, this happened. My wife's grandfather, smack, hit the other guy. Their parachutes going out and out and out on each other. Well, my wife's grandfather finally takes his boots, smacks off the helmet of the other guy, and saves both their lives. During live fire training, y'all remember live fire training? If you do, you're probably Hugo's age, and God love you. But his buddy grabs the back of his scruff here, saves his life. Bullets go in front of him. That's the kind of guy that Irvin Selby was and that my wife's grandfather was. And so we honor him here today as well. And we might put up a post of his memorial little, it's like a plaque with lots of patches and stuff. It's very beautiful. I put that up later. But we ask guys here for prayers for the repose of the souls of Pope Francis, Eusebio Razo Jr., and Irvin Selby, who we honor here today. Their lives very, very close together, lost, and very much men worthy of honor. And we need to find men worthy of honor in these times because there are so few, and we're losing them every single day. And we're not making more of them. So young men out there, my guys, gentlemen, it's time for us to step up. We need to. And that brings us into our last topic, which unfortunately is not so nice. Not so nice, guys. Because this topic, unfortunately, involves our local state conflicts. Now, what am I talking about? I'm just going to read to you guys an email that was received from the current party leadership of the Colorado GOP. Legislation on gun rights, parental rights, and action items. We will share this once we confirm that we can on our Facebook and other places. While we fully support the defense of our constitutional freedoms, how far, I'm not sure, the officers of the Colorado Republican Party are not registered lobbyists under Colorado law, and therefore cannot engage in direct lobbying activities. This is based on my interpretation, based on the current legal structure and bylaws. However, a formal legal clarification would require confirmation from party council, and any change to allow direct lobbying would need to be expressly authorized by the chair and the SEC. I guess I got to vote on this, or through amendments to bylaws. From Darrell Lee Felon, Vice President of the Colorado GOP. Well, isn't that wonderful, guys? Isn't that wonderful? What do you need guns for anyways? We're not lobbyists. We're not part of the registered lobby trade organization of registered trade lobbyists. Man, you ever try to do lobbying work without being part of the registered lobbying list? Man, you'd end up in the east side of Chicago. I tell you what. What is this excuse? What is this excuse? The party officers can't do anything about the fact that they're literally trying to take all of our guns and our children because they're not registered lobbyists? The math don't math on that one, folks. The excuses are piling up. And I want to make this very clear. I support the current officers of the party. I really do. I do. No. I know you're all thinking that's crazy or that I'm blowing smoke, but I do. I believe this is supporting them. I believe calling them out on their mistakes is supporting them because we as Christian brothers and sisters are meant to correct each other. Sometimes very harshly. Well, it's time for harsh correction, folks. It's time for harsh correction. Because this harsh correction will be made with love. I know, shocking. So, as somebody who goes on vacation in the last month of the legislative session, or somebody that can't be reached for comments because they're too busy taking over an organization that they presumably have had months to prepare to take over. Donald Trump got the ball rolling day one. What was the excuse of our party officers again? Things were missing. We had things to do, guys. We had things to do. We had things to do that we didn't plan for things to do. You know, we just thought we would just roll right in and not need to do anything. Guys, we need to do better. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying anything really negative personally about anybody in this situation beyond they're not doing their jobs and they're giving us excuses as to why they're not doing their jobs. This new leadership needs a big action, series of actions and outreaches this month, this week, next month, to the end of the legislative session, or their lack of activity will be used by the grassroots to shatter their confidence, to criticize them endlessly. And for this criticism, they will be labeled dividers. Were they supposed to say nothing? Was everyone supposed to say nothing while leadership gives reasons why they're not doing their jobs? It was never going to happen, guys. There was never going to be this situation in which everybody just tolerates a lack of excellence and a lack of ponying up the dough, because that was a huge promise of this leadership, was the money will flow. Well, where's the money for stopping the trans bill? Where's the outreach and effort to stop the gun grabs? No, we're given excuses. I would have this puts Dave Williams' anti-gay emails to shame. Okay, Dave made one serious, regrettable error in marketing and messaging. These guys are just straight up making excuses for not doing their jobs. And we can't expect a lack of criticism on that, guys, you know. I am on the side of the Colorado GOP. I don't have sides. Again, as a Hispanic, I know what it's like to be from two things, but fully one thing. I am fully a Republican. I stand firmly in the camp of the people, the grassroots. But I understand the need for the establishment. I understand there's a need for money and connections or whatever they offer. There needs to be cooperation. We believe in class cooperation. We do not believe in the class division of Marxism. But we do believe that the people are sovereign, and money does not make you sovereign. Connections don't make you sovereign. Only the love of the people do. And the love of the people is connected to the Constitution, because the Constitution protects the rights of the people. So when you cannot defend the rights of the people because you're not a registered lobbyist, well, get yourself registered as a lobbyist then. Dude, if you're coming to me with reasons you can't do something, I'm going to tell you the answers as to how you can do it. And if I don't see it done after that, I know you just don't want to do the work. I want to see that the new leadership wants to do the work. And so I challenge leadership to dig deep, to become registered lobbyists immediately, effective immediately. Go down to the Registered Trade Union of Trade Lobbyists or whatever made-up guild controls this stuff and get yourself signed up so that you can start lobbying so that we can keep our guns and our kids. That would be a great use of your time and resources as officers of the party, not taking vacations. I understand, you know, anniversaries. Hey, I'm having one too in a couple of days here. But if I had something extremely important for about a month or two after my anniversary, I think that I'll call it a mulligan and have my anniversary in June that year or the year next year, whatever year that needs to happen. I think that I would rather make it happen than come up with excuses as to why it can't. So I hope that you guys will indulge me little bit there. You know, I was a little frustrated to see leadership who I absolutely gave the benefit of the doubt to. I defended to many people, in fact, much to the consternation of many grassroots Republicans. I defended the new leadership, saying, let's give them a shot. Let's try to work with them, even if we have to work with them aggressively. Let's be diplomatic. I'm sure they want to do the right thing too. No, it appears that they don't want to do anything at all, and we need to motivate them to do something. And that's what we'll do here on Hispanic Patriot Podcast. And we invite the Colorado officers at any time, if they wish to speak to the Hispanic community and Hispanic Patriot Podcast, we offer them at least, you know, I'd be happy to talk with them. I can't speak for Hugo, but I'd be very happy to interview them and ask them serious questions as a journalist for the Hispanic community. Let's see if they will take that hand. It is being reached out by our community. It really is. The grassroots are beautiful people. They're forgiving. They're Christian. Reach out a hand to the grassroots, people. They will reach back. And the people will provide, as they have since the days of old. Since the days of Caesar and Augustus and the days of Solon and all of the greats of ancient civilization that we stand in America as the heirs of today. Take your jobs seriously if you're officers in the Republican Party. Your inheritance stretches back 3,000 years. Don't ever forget that. You really can't. Because our Lord and Savior died for us. He founded a church at Pentecost, the universal church of all mankind, that all people may find a loving home in. That is what So guys, Viva Cristo Rey. Long live the United States of America. Viva America. And thank you all for joining us today. We had some laughs, we had some tears, we had some prayers, and we had some much needed scorns. All done in love, all done in the name of oneness. As we said before, Einigkeit in German, oneness. Not just unity, but being one thing. One Republican Party, one Christian community of believers under Christ the King. One family, one civilization built over thousands of years and topped by a cross. Guys, thank you so much for joining us today. We appreciate every single one of you. Like, comment, subscribe, and if you felt moved today, consider going to our website and making a donation. Any amount helps us expand the show, get us into bigger and better places that we can bring directly to you. We've been to the RNC, we've been to SEC meetings in the state of Colorado, we've had interviews with Congress people, with people who are leaders in the communities in Colorado, all over the state, and even all over the country. We look forward to providing you more information as the years go on. Check us out on all the platforms. Check out our old videos. I think that you really will find some sweet treasures in there. And we appreciate all of your prayers on this solemn day of loss and remembrance, hope, love, and especially freedom. Thank you for joining. We appreciate you guys. I have been Nickolas Razo, signing off.